Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from MaliciousCompliance. Story 1 is by StarsBear75063. You don't want to pay a few bucks to your Uber driver for waiting? It's gonna cost you plenty there, Sparky. I drive for Uber in the Dallas area and have done so for about 7.5 years. I accepted a reservation on the app for a trip from Royce City, Texas, east of Dallas, to the Dallas/Fort Worth International Airport, about 60 miles or 100 kilometers, for 4:30 the next morning. My payout showed to be about $58 and some change, so fairly good trip. I arrived 20 minutes early, and at 4:35 the rider called me because he needed more time to get ready. I said, no worries. I would wait as long as he needed. But then he wanted me to cancel the trip. His reason? He didn't want to pay for the waiting time or the cancellation fee. His logic was that when he was ready, he would just reorder the ride, and since I would be there already, I could just accept the trip and all would be well. Yeah, not quite. Uber has a policy that if a driver is at the pickup location for the reservation on time, and the ride is canceled for any reason by either the driver or rider, the rider still pays for the whole trip and not just a $5 cancellation fee. I tried to explain this to the rider, and he cut me off rudely and asked, "Are you going to do this for me? If not, you can just blank off and I will arrange the ride without you." I went into my humble, contrite mode while apologizing and asking his forgiveness for me being presumptuous. I told him that, certainly, I would cancel the trip and it would be no problem for me to wait the 30 to 45 minutes that he required. As it was about halfway to East Jesus, Texas, there was literally zero chance I would get another ride request in that time. That's where the malicious compliance kicked in. Oh, I canceled the trip, just as he requested, which is crossed out, demanded. Marked it as a no-show. He paid Uber twice and I got paid twice for the trip. Wonder how long it took for him to realize it. Poor guy even tipped me after he got to the airport. Uber drivers serving just desserts. We can also file this one under one of my favorite phrases, you F around and you find out. I love this one because their policy pretty much says he can do nothing about it. If he tries to raise a stink about it, there's nothing he can do. He has to pay, and he won't get his money back. Our next story is by Certain Macaroon 3602. Babies first, malicious compliance. Alright, I was telling a friend this story and she pushed me to share it, so I hope this counts. The year was 2000 and I was 9 years old. For context, I'm the oldest of 6. Mom was ready to pop out the 4th at the time, and it was a very hot July day. So my brother, 7 at the time, and I were fighting over a box of crackers on the kitchen counter. Why were we on the kitchen counter? Who knows, but I'm sure at the time it seemed like a great place to fight over a box of Cheez-Its. So I'm trying to pull the box away from him, and he's trying to pull the box away from me, and eventually he gets the grand idea to push me off the counter. I go tumbling and land hard on my right arm, and even though I was only 9, I'd already broken a leg, my other arm, and all of the toes in both feet. I knew what a broken bone felt like, and I was positive that my arm was broken. The problem was I felt almost no pain to a very high pain tolerance from my rough and tumble childhood. To this day, I have a stupidly high pain tolerance. So I know my arm is broken. I can't move it properly. I can't make a fist. I can't use my fingers. So I go to my mom, who's trying to keep cool from both the weather and my second brother growing inside her, and I say, "Mom, I need you to take me to the doctors. My arm is broken and I need a cast." Now, my mom would later become not so great, but at the time she was still a pretty okay mom. And looking back on it, I can't really blame her for not believing me at the time. So she shooed me away and said, "I don't want to hear anything about your arm. You're fine. Stop bothering me." Okay then, I'm a good daughter. I will not bother my mom about my arm anymore. The rest of the day goes by with me playing around with my broken arm. I'm holding it up with my other arm while watching TV. I'm holding onto the swing with one hand, and I'm trying to teach myself how to write with my left hand because who knows how long it will take to heal a broken arm without a doctor. Finally, I have to go to my mom because I need to go to the bathroom and I can't unbutton my jeans without both my hands. She's been getting more and more annoyed with me as she's watched me baby my arm all day, and she finally snaps at me, telling me that she'll take me to the doctor, but if my arm isn't broken, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. I agreed, not too worried because I know my arm is broken, and we head to the hospital. The entire ride is spent with my mother coming up with more and more detailed threats. If we go to the doctor, they're going to have to give you a big shot. I hate needles, but again, I know my arm is hurt, so I insist we keep going. We finally get to the hospital and the nurse says, "Oh, her arm isn't broken, but we'll give her an x-ray just to humor her." Guess what? A complete forearm break. My mom felt horrible and bought me pizza and candy, something we almost never got, and I didn't have to share any of it. So yeah, I don't know if this really counts as true malicious compliance, but I like to think of it as a baby's first steps towards being the sarcastic little piece of work I am today. How on earth do you break that many bones in 9 years? She's 9, right, at the time? I gotta go back and read again. Yeah, she's 9 years old, and she's broken a leg, her other arm, and all of the toes in both her feet. Did you get run over by a car? It's like, what? I've never broken a bone, but I hear it's pretty painful, and I remember playing with a friend when we were young, and we were playing on this hillside, and we were like jumping down the hill. We got on all fours and would jump down the hill, and he landed on his arm, and he just started screaming, and I'll never forget that. Thankfully, I've never broken one. Sprained him, got kicked in the wrist once when playing soccer, but never broke a bone. Down in the comments by Snoo Peripherals 2409. I went through the same thing with my mom. I'd had a head-on collision with another kid on a bicycle and my right arm hurt. My mother, the registered nurse, insisted it could not be broken because I could move my fingers, but it ached and ached. Days later, Mom got tired of me whining about it and agreed to take me to the doctor. Along the way, she informed me that if my arm wasn't broken, I'd have to pay the doctor out of my allowance, a whole 25 cents a week. We got to the doctor's office, they did the x-ray, and sure enough, my arm is broken. A non-displaced fracture. Smart aleck little me got the satisfaction of hearing the doctor dress down my mother, especially since she was a nurse and she should have known better. I got a cool cast and got out of physical education for 2 months. Oh, the bicycle was totaled. The frame was bent that badly. Our next story is by Icy Bison 13. You want at least 1,000 words? I can give you at least 1,000 words. My workplace has a mandatory 2-day orientation for new hires. When I was brought on, there were a bunch of scheduling issues and the dates changed several times. I got confused and only attended one of the days as I didn't realize it was a 2-day event. About a month after getting hired, I get an email from HR. Hello. Our records indicate you were not present for the first day of mandatory employee orientation. Here is the link to the event recording. Since you missed attending in person, you are additionally required to write a minimum 1,000-word reflection on the most impactful session. For some reason, the minimum 1,000-word requirement made me see red. I was a fully grown adult being treated like a high schooler, made to write lines on the board because I missed class. I could understand making me watch the orientation, even though I had been doing my job fine for the first 4 weeks. But do something reasonable, like some very specific fill-in-the-blank questions just to prove I watched it. 1,000-word minimum was just gratuitous. So I stewed over it for about a week. Then one night after a few drinks it hit me. The only requirement was that it was at least 1,000 words, along with some specific questions. I reread the email and confirmed. They did not give any instructions on a maximum length, nor any instructions on formatting or content beyond those questions. I cracked open my laptop, found the longest presentation from the orientation, and got to work. I set about essentially writing a line-by-line transcript of a 50-minute presentation. I rambled for pages about everything from the signing of the Declaration of Independence to my favorite childhood camping trip. By the end of it, my magnum opus sprawled for an impressive 12 pages. I answered each of the required questions with a single sentence and buried them throughout my pages of unhinged ranting. I then set the font size to 8, single-spaced it, and changed the font to Webdings. To ensure that HR could not just change it back to readable font or reliably use the Control-F to find the questions, I also printed it, scanned it, and sent it as an image file. The next morning, I get an angry email from HR. Good morning. I am informing you that your submitted reflective essay is completely unacceptable. Please resubmit it as a Word document with size 12 times New Roman's font, double-spaced. Failure to do so will result in an immediate disciplinary meeting with the VP of HR. I simply replied, I apologize that I misunderstood your instructions. If you could please show me where in your original email you outlined the formatting requirements, then I will gladly resubmit it in the proper format. I've worked at this company for almost 2 years now. I have yet to even see the VP of HR, let alone have a disciplinary meeting with him or her. I recently ran into a brand new employee who also managed to miss his orientation. According to him, HR was very specific that his response was to be no more than 1,500 words in size 12 times New Roman font. 1,000 words is not that much, but I think it's a bit much for missing an orientation. Like he said, make them watch the video and answer some questions that proves that they watched it. Writing a full-on essay is just ridiculous. That's them basically wanting to punish you. Not only are we going to make you watch it, but you're going to have to write a paper on it. Nobody likes writing papers. Actually, I'm sure there's some people out there who are into research who love writing papers, but most people don't. However, it's pretty nice that this malicious compliance led to some good changes in the establishment. Now there's a minimum and a maximum amount of words, and formatting instructions as well. Malicious compliance leads to changes that are good, quite often. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a great day.